Right, with some of the details done, I'm ready to start applying the main camouflage to the flogger now. I've done a look around in my collection of Tamiya paints for some matches. I've sprayed the wings an initial coat just to judge the matches, and I think I've made pretty good colour matches for initial coats from some of the mixes I have in my collection. It's a 3-tone camouflage I'm doing. It's actually not terribly dissimilar to US Air Force Southeast Asia camouflage, just perhaps a little bit darker. Anyway, having looked around, I found that XF49 khaki was really a very good match for the brown colour in this camouflage. So my initial painting is going to be using this colour straight from the pot. So I'm just going to turn my airbrush on. Now for the initial coats, the brown coat at least, it doesn't have to be that exact. I'm not going to be doing too tight work with it because there's another 2 colours to go on top of it yet. So I'm just going to add a little bit of Mr. Colour Leveling Thinner to my airbrush cap, and then we're going to add the khaki colour. Just giving it a good stir around there, and then it's just a quick check to see how it's coming through my airbrush, and it's coming through fine. So I'm referring, I've got some pictures and colour instructions on my iPad, so I'm just looking for where this camouflage goes. And I'm carrying it well into the well over the zones where it actually needs to be. As I said, you don't have to be too exact for these coats because you have other colours to go over the top of that, which will be where you're really tightening up your camouflage. So as you can see, that's a really loose sort of outline to the initial coat, and then we're just going around and filling it in. Don't forget, using quick acrylics which dry quickly, and Mr. Colour Leveling Thinner I'm using, which is great for preventing your airbrush from clogging. I find it much better than any of the alcohol mixers and stuff that people like to use. So we're just giving it thing is with most flat paints, and it especially occurs with Tamiya flat paints, if you're doing fine airbrushing, it can give it quite an inconsistent look on the paint when it's dry, because it's so flat. That will completely disappear under the varnish, and it will all become a more unified, uniform colour. So if you're watching your paints dry and worrying about the inconsistencies, invariably there's nothing to worry about, because when you come to varnish the model, all those inconsistencies will disappear. So there's our base colour for the tail area. So I'm just going to just flipping over and having another look at the other side of the tail, and actually looks pretty similar on the other side of the tail as well. So okay, so there's a base brown applied. So what we need to do now is think about how we're going to weather this the colours as we go along. And what I want to do is some post fading and shading of these colours. So what I'm going to do is lighten this first, and the first colour I'm going to use to lighten my base coat is XF57 Buff. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to add a drop of buff to my base colour there to lighten it up. It's already quite thin, but I'll just add a few dabs more thinner to it, and then we've immediately got a lighter. Just spray it till it starts coming through. Okay. And then what we're looking at is going over individual panel lines in one direction and then the other direction like that. Okay, you can pick random directions, just do a couple of passes for each colour. All we're doing is we're imparting a cloudy pattern over the over the base coat, and it just adds a weathered, a nice weathered look to the model. Don't worry about straying over the your division lines too much. Your paint's very thin, so it's not going to do too much damage if you do wander over. So I'm sure on the camera it's just looking wet and inconsistent, but in real life it actually looks pretty good. So this is just literally going over the all of our panel lines, all of the panels on the model. Back and forth in one direction. Okay, and then we're going back and forth in the other direction. to say it's already looking nicely weathered back. Now one thing I have to do after this is go back over the base colour, in this case the brown, with a slightly darker variant as well, for which I will probably use something like a very heavily thinned linoleum deck brown there. Although that has to be done with a bit more subtlety than you do the light colour. But it does impart a really nice faded appearance to the model. Okay, that's the base and the lighter colour both done. So I'm just going to give my airbrush a quick swill out. It doesn't matter, you're not actually trying to clean it out completely because I'm just going to be spraying more brown through there, so it's only the work of a minute or two to do that. And then I'm going to take the linoleum brown colour, okay, which is really quite an intense colour, so I only want a tiny drop of this really. So making sure my colour's mixed, and so let's see how that's coming through. So yeah, that's a really thin mixture of that. So really we whilst you can afford, whilst in my experience you can afford to be, you know, reasonably heavy-handed with the paler mix, it's always seems to me that you have to go a bit lighter handed with the dark mix, and it's just giving it this nicely kind of variegated appearance, but going one way and then the other. Imparts a kind of a cloudy appearance. It gives it a nice irregularity which works. As I say, this is a really thin mixture. And this colour here against the khaki, which is really quite a greeny brown, this linoleum colour is quite red, so it is doubly important. It's doubly important to kind of hint at a variation without overdoing it. As I hope my techniques are showing you, this really isn't rocket science of any shape, size or description, is it? As with most airbrush weathering techniques, the key is subtlety and going back multiple times if you need to. Not trying to achieve a given effect in one pass, because it'll just ruin the finish rather than enhance it anyway. It's going to ruin it. So paint check, go that way through it, and go back if you need to do more. Mind you, that said, you are spraying paint and it's going on very, very thinly, so don't panic if you do get it wrong, because recovering is just simply a case of reloading one of the original colours and going over the bits you got wrong and restoring them. The paint's going on really very, very thinly indeed, so it's not something to panic over, honestly. And that is the brown colour applied and weathered as much as I want to at this point. There's other stuff that's going to need to be done as we move on with the build, in terms of weathering over coats and stuff like that, but for now that's your base brown applied. Now we've got to go back and do the same thing with the other camouflage colours, which we will do. I will come back and show you how to effectively freehand a camouflage scheme when I return. But that's your brown colours initially done.